What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. Welcome to Jets Therapy. Welcome in, everybody. As I mentioned, it's your boy DKB here. This is Jets Therapy. This week, our topic is, of course, us coming out of the bye week. The New York Jets were able to have some success, even though we weren't playing games with some of the various losses that we've seen. But I do see some of that doubt creeping back into the minds of some of our loyal Jets fans here, right? Is this the same old Jets, just the new year, or are we actually looking at a realistic chance for us to make the playoffs? And again, when in the bye week, you take a look at things right now, we're sitting, I believe, 9th or 10th place overall in the AFC, something like that. But we're well in position to go out there with the win this week and put ourselves as one of, I think I mentioned today, one out of about 10 teams that'll have a record over 500 at 4-3 for us specifically. So it's not a far-fetched theory, right? I think a lot of this also is going to be heavily dependent on which version of Zach Wilson are we getting. Are we seeing the Zach Wilson from the last 3 weeks? Or are we going to get the, Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots version of Zach Wilson? And I think you can't help but say that, it's breadcrumbs, but we are realistically seeing Zach Wilson come out here and play some of the best football of his short career. Which is honestly a huge plus for us, right? Especially considering him being thrust into the fire after Aaron Rodgers' injury. But nonetheless, I would be probably one of the many so far that says, we do have a very realistic chance of jumping into the playoffs, especially when you take a look at our current schedule that we have coming up. I mean, we've wrapped up, as everybody will tell you, the very hardest portion of our schedule, right? You took a look on paper at the quarterbacks that we were facing. You take a look at some of those defenses that we're going to have to go up against. And, we get excited because even with Aaron Rodgers here, you would have expected 3-3 to be a perfect spot for the New York Jets going into the bye week. And, seeing how we played and how the offense performed, even with Zach Wilson, there's definitely an argument to be made that we could be looking at a 4-2 or a 5-1 record right now. So pretty good stuff. Nonetheless, let's take a look at our schedule real quick. All right, so we just boxed up the Eagles. We are technically staying home this week, where we get a chance to battle the Giants in the Snoopy Bowl, right? Things look good for us this week. You take a look at Daniel Jones. He's coming off of that injury. He also hasn't really been playing great. I hear a lot of people saying that if Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback, the New York Jets' chances go up even more of us securing a W. You get a little bit more concerned about Tyrod Taylor being able to take advantage of some of the weapons they have and being able to get that team to overperform. But realistically, coming out of the bye week, we've had 2 weeks to rest, get healthy, get Zach Wilson that additional time to continue to get acclimated to this playbook. And we're expecting a W, right? Let's go 4-3 coming out of the bye week, something that's been a bit of an Achilles heel for a lot of head coaches over the past, 10 years for the New York Jets. Then you take a look at the Chargers. That game could go either way. The Raiders, I would expect to have a win. The Bills do not look like the Bills that have been reaching, AFC championship status for quite a bit. And, it's early. It's a 6 to 7 games in the season so far. So still plenty of time to turn things around. But the Bills look very, very vulnerable. And as we've seen the first week that we played them, Josh Allen can be prone to plenty of turnovers that we should be able to take advantage of. So I would be able to expect a win there. The Dolphins is going to be a scary game, but we've actually seen them look like an ordinary team at certain parts of this season as well, which bodes in our favor considering our defense. And we should be seeing a healthy version of DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner with a couple games under their belt at that point to, get ready for the challenge of a Jalen Waddle, a Tyreek Hill, and basically that entire offense is predicated on speed. And then you take a look at the Falcons as our next 6 games on the schedule, and again, I would say that is a very winnable game for the New York Jets. Realistically, taking a look at things here, the only team that really scares me left on here is the Miami Dolphins, considering what they've done in the first 6 games. Everybody else, the Chargers will be a challenge. I said I would expect to win against the Bills. They could be a challenge. But every other team, I'm not really concerned about whatsoever. So I have seen some crazy stuff like the New York Jets should be able to go undefeated after the bye week. I don't think that'll be the case at all. But things definitely look very good and in our favor here. What's the good word, Barney? I appreciate you guys coming through. As mentioned, I know it's late for most of you guys being on, the mid-east or East Coast. The Jets, I'm assuming that's not supposed to be trade. The Jets trample, I guess, for Waddle and Hill. You're going to have to explain that one for me, Barney. But yeah, I mean, we did fairly well against them last year. So, I expect our cornerbacks to be able to be up for the challenge against anybody. So it is what it is there. But I would say realistically, we talked about this on Just Fly Squad. Realistically, I think the floor post bye week, goofing, I got you. This is what therapy is for. I'm with you. Realistically, out of the bye week, though, I think 7 wins is very realistic, right? We have 11 games left. 7 of those games, again, look very winnable. You take a look at the Bills, you take a look at the Dolphins, it's 2 of those wins. As we've seen, Falcons, Commanders. There's some very winnable games there. Very, very winnable. Sub DK was good, Luis. What's your score prediction for this game? I think it depends on which quarterback they roll with. And I think, Brian Daboll's looked like he's had some intense conversations with Daniel Jones in recent weeks. I would say they probably use his injury as an excuse to get another look at Tyrod Taylor, which I think makes it a little bit more of a closer game. But I would say we should be able to get the Giants by at least 10 points. So I would probably say like a 20-10 score is fair, assuming we still have some red zone issues that come up. But, there's a big player too on paper that gets us a couple TDs. So, yeah, realistically, I want to say like 20-10 or 23-10 Jets win. Do you think Sauce and DJ plays Sunday? I think one of the two. And the obvious player I would lead to, because he's had a couple more weeks to kind of work through his concussion issues, would be DJ Reed. But if we wanted to be overly safe and make sure that we have DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner for the games that matter, I wouldn't be opposed to actually rolling out there with the same defensive backfield that we beat the Eagles with. The Giants don't have elite talent in the same way that the Eagles did. You're taking a look at who is it? Darren Waller over there, and then it's Saquon Barkley realistically, and those are the 2 major guys that we need to stop. Everybody else, I mean, they do have an interesting wide receiver room. They just haven't been able to do a ton with it. So I would say if there's any concern at like when I heard Robert Saleh's press conference today, for example, I did get a little bit concerned that he mentioned that both of them, Sauce and DJ, could be a game time decision. It really shouldn't take that long coming out of concussion protocol, especially when you've had a couple of weeks. Granted, everybody's a little different. Every situation is slightly different, but neither player really has a history of it and all that kind of stuff. So a little bit concerning. But again, I would be pretty comfortable rolling. I'd let them wait another week if there's any concern that they're still feeling some kind of ill effects from it. So yeah, I'm comfortable rolling out with Bryce Hall and Tay Hayes again, Craig James. My guess, we beat the Finns both times. What? Okay. We lose to the Bills in double overtime. I thought you only do double OT in the playoffs, right? Once you go to OT and once you go to OT in the regular season, it's just a tie on the record. Sadly, lose to the cheating Pats because, like Michigan, they cheat. But those are only losses. Okay, so we sweep the Finns. I'm all for that. We split with the Bills. I could live with that. Being swept by the Pats again, though, I can't. I'd be extremely sad, especially as I touched on before. What do you call it? Bill Belichick and the rumors about him being fired. I would love to be the last team that beats him on his way out the door. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's too far fetched. Sweeping the Dolphins is something I don't think anybody will predict right now. But we've seen crazier things. We've definitely seen crazier things, and if we do sweep them, I would say the AFC East is ours. At that point, the record doesn't matter because we're going to win the division. I got you. It's late, Barney. Math doesn't math correctly after 5 o'clock. Coming through late night for sure. Concern level 1 to 10 on Schweitzer and McGovern versus Williams and Lawrence. Assuming Saleh's kiss of death, quick healer coming for Tim. Yeah, I got you. I am begging and pleading, even if Tippmann can't go for this game, that he's at least going to be, we'll see him again in the next couple weeks. But I'm comfortable with Schweitzer. There's a reason that we signed him. The physicality was definitely going to be one of the main components, just as well as him having a versatility to come in there as center if needed. McGovern always scares me. If you have an overly powerful or just an above average athletic defensive tackle, McGovern can be taken advantage of. So I do get concerned with him, especially because that means you'll have to alter the game plan to do some double teaming on the interior, where if we're going to double team, I would prefer it to be, between tackle and guard and not necessarily between center and guard. But Wes Schweitzer, I would say I'm probably at about a 6. McGovern, I would say I'm at a 2. 11-5-1. Yeah, that's either way. That's still it should be a guaranteed playoff spot, right? I don't know if that would mean we're winning the division or if that's just a wild card spot. I would say that's probably division winning worthy. But yeah. I thought Belichick signed a big contract. Yeah, I'm not sure. Let me Google it real quick. But also keep in mind, when it comes to the coaches, it's not the same as like worrying about cap space with the players and all of that. I'm trying to remember who the last coach was that got like 5 or 6 years, and I think he got canned after 2. Where is it? Oh, is this recent? Oh, no. Okay, before the 2023 season. So It doesn't say numbers on this article I'm looking at. It just says that a source leaked that Bill Belichick got a lucrative multi-year contract before the 2023 season started. So if that's the case, yeah, I don't know. Somebody would have to be the scapegoat for the season that they're having. So I guess that means Bill O'Brien's going to be walked out the same, within a year's period. But I don't know. Either way, I'm going to root every year that Bill Belichick is, on the hot seat, personally. But it looks like you were right. That rookie cornerback is back from IR. Oh, yeah, Jared Bernard-Converse. Is he going to be active? Who would they deactivate? I don't know if they've seen. So he's been able to practice for 3 weeks, right? He's pretty much completed his 21-day window between coming off of IR and when they had to sign him to the active roster. So they're seeing him for 3 weeks. The concern is, I know that he's a much better safety than he is a cornerback, at least based on what we've seen in college. So I don't know how comfortable they would be trying to move him to cornerback. But if they were going to activate him, I would probably say somebody like Carl Lawson is a healthy scratch, or maybe somebody like Randall Cobb, right? One of the guys that essentially are on the trade block for us also is having minimal usage, and we probably want to, put somebody more feasible at their position anyways. Schweitzer looked like butt on some plays versus. Yeah, he's not even in terms of being like a backup offensive lineman, Schweitzer isn't like very, very solid and set in stone. I'm actually dropping a video tomorrow morning on somebody on the trade block I really hope that we go after. Very cheap, pretty solid player when it comes to a backup. So I'm not going to chat about it here. I'll leave the suspense out in the air. But yeah, Schweitzer, he's not a great pass blocker. The physicality helps in the run game, but, only so much to a point. He's a guy that, to me, relies a lot on some of his strength and athletic ability, and he's not very technically skilled. And you also see some mental lapses and stuff like stunts and just overall him getting beat off the snap quicker than you'd like to see. Keep in mind, though, we are talking about the Eagles' defensive front, though, so we're talking about a top 3 unit that team's going up against. And I want to say Schweitzer really hasn't needed to touch the field too much. Plus, he was dealing with some aches and bruises, if I remember correctly. So I give him some slack for sure. If Schweitzer goes down, who would play right guard? Assuming we don't have Tippmann and Schweitzer goes down, I would bump up Jason Poe, the right guard that I've been talking about more recently again for a couple weeks. I would move him up and I would place him at starter. But I'm trying to think who else do we have within. So Mackay, Tomlinson, McGovern, Schweitzer, Mitchell. And then who are the main backups again? Let me double check. I feel like I'm forgetting some obvious names here, but Billy Turner has versatility to play guard. So based on the fact that we don't really have any other true guards, I would say it would probably be Billy Turner unless they move up Jason Poe from the practice squad. Bro, I've been feeling Cook is going to break out against the Giants. Look, if there's going to be a game to do it, the Giants would definitely be a strong one. When you face teams that like to blitz a lot, to Robert Saleh's point earlier today, there does open up opportunities for somebody that's not disciplined or they're playing, outside of the scheme to a certain degree, and they miss, a gap or, overrun the play, or they're really just expecting pass and, it ends up being run. There's a huge opportunity to take advantage of that. But I don't know. It depends on if they try to change up his usage, right? For the majority, every handoff that we've seen from him is, in between the guard center. He hasn't necessarily bounced anything outside of the tackles or anything like that. So we'll see. I mean, I hate cooking what I've seen from him so far, but if we're going to keep playing for him, I will have fingers crossed that we do see some kind of positive performance out of him. But for a veteran, that shouldn't really need a whole ton of extra work, even coming off the injury and stuff. Because if you're going to use that as an excuse, you might as well have not signed him. I'm disappointed in what I've seen over 6 weeks. So, let's see. Hope you're right about Cook. Wink Martindale likes to play. Yeah, facts. Barney, no. So Robert Saleh mentioned they have another week, so they're going to let Dwayne Brown continue to just rehab and work off to the side this week. They're going to make a decision on if they officially activate him and what they want to do next week. Wasn't that guard that you're talking about signed by the Cowboys? I really like Cologne during the preseason. No, Jason Poe is still on our practice squad right now. I haven't heard of any other offensive linemen from our practice squad getting snatched up. I know the mammoth tackle, Ryan Swoboda, that people were talking about, early in the offseason when we were making these signings. He was cut, a month and a half ago, and we haven't heard anything about it. But, yeah, we still have Jason Poe, so we're still in good shape there. Clemens at right guard, just to hit Kayvon on a stunt. Turner played guard, but unless we call folks up, that's all we got. Yeah, we're lacking in things right there. So limited options. Papa Salah said, yeah. Dark Soldier was the good word, boss. Dwayne won't start for at least 3 weeks. I'm going to assume this is your own personal thought on this one. As far as I know, we'll get the official word on him next week. And then he's never played right tackle, as he mentioned, since sophomore year of college. So you're talking almost 2 decades, give or take a little more or less. I wouldn't want to see him in the starting unit at all based on what we've seen. We all thought him with 2 arms was going to be better than the 1-arm guy we saw last season, and he looked just about as bad as Billy Turner did. So I'm not excited for him coming back, but we'll see. I wish Dwayne Brown trains for right guard. Maybe he can be a good guard option. His build says he should, right? Like I forgot who we called a muscle hamster last week. But yeah, you think about kind of his brick house build, right? Very stocky dude, low center of gravity for a guy his size. Relatively powerful for his age. So you'd hope he'd be able to go out there and manhandle some people in a phone booth. I just don't know if he'd be able to move the pile much. I get worried about his ability to create some separation at the line of scrimmage. And that's if the guard thing even works out. I think his feet may be a little bit too slow and you see him get rolled up on or something like that. But I would also imagine he probably has some reservations about playing at a guard spot. But, I'm just guessing. I appreciate you coming through, Barney. You're a trooper for hanging with me this late. Hopefully work goes well tomorrow. I hope Clemens finds his mojo. Yeah, I remember a couple people chatting about him before. I'm going to chalk this season up to mostly being a wash for him, right? And we talked about it. Moving to the interior is a new position. Also, you don't have the same traits as John Franklin Myers to rely on. So he's going to get beat up. He's going to get, rinsed out on the interior until he finds a way to get better with his hands and, understanding leverage a little bit better. They'll keep Becton at left. I'm going to hope to God you meant left tackle. But yeah, Becton at left tackle, it definitely makes the most sense for the team. This is if they move him to right tackle, it feels like one of those karma moments where we're just begging. At that point, you're begging the universe to give him another injury, and that's the last thing we need on our plate right now. Zach needs to do a lot of play action plays. Yeah, I've seen a couple articles on stuff like that where people want to see him in play action a lot more. If he utilizes play action to the degree that we saw it on like CJ Uzama's catch, where he's doing a strong sail and he's coming out there and scanning things super quick and then getting the ball out, I have no problem with it. If that's not going to be the case, though, I would prefer that we just do more bootleg options where we move the pocket and, let him get outside of the tackles and try to create something, whether that's with his legs or, he just finds somebody in broken coverage. I think solid nose is an important game for us. Yeah, I don't think the importance of it is understated. At this point, I think he knows every win he can get is at a premium for him to keep his job. But you can say the same argument with, Adam Gase, with Todd Bowles, with Rex Ryan, like just coming out of the bye week for a lot of those previous coaches that generally led their team off of emotion and stuff like that. We never do well. We never do well coming out of bye weeks. I want to say maybe this is probably way off, but I feel like I'm probably not as far off as I think. We probably had like 2 or 3 wins in maybe the last 6 years coming off a bye week. So, yeah, I don't know. Not great whatsoever. But I do like Robert Saleh's program and some of the stuff he's saying about what he's switching up to accommodate for what they're seeing from like a health standpoint and, trying to make the best combination of rest versus still getting your preparation in. But if we can't do it against the Giants, then I don't know who will be able to do it against, right? They're reeling. They have a lot of mistakes and things they're trying to fix on their side too. We're the better team on both sides of the ball. Like at some point you have to go out there and do what's expected of you. So that's what I'm really looking to see. Peace out, Dart. I will catch you tomorrow, I'm sure, commenting on something. I appreciate you coming through, boss. Do you think Cobb will be active? I hope not. It's been weird watching the Jets and then like going in. So like normally, since I bought some of the streaming packages, I'm able to go out there and actually watch the game in real time. Then I think 24 hours or so after the game, I get the all 22. I'm able to go out there and check that out. Not that I do anything with that with you guys, actually. So yeah, I gotta figure out something with that. But either way, watch the game real time. Then I'm able to check out the all 22. And then when I'm just going through articles and like, checking out Pro Football Reference and, some of those statistical sites and stuff, it's interesting to see if the stats back up what you're actually going out there and seeing on film. And with Randall Cobb, I won't say that's 100% the case, but it definitely looks like it, right? Randall Cobb statistically is like one of the worst wide receivers. Doesn't matter if it's a slot or a boundary guy. He's one of the worst, period. And so for a guy that doesn't offer anything in the receiving game, a guy that doesn't offer anything in terms of strong run blocking ability, and then you're also getting, we're being penalized. I don't know why it's worth rolling him out. I don't think they'll make him inactive, though. If anything, I just think he sees a very, very minimal amount of snaps, like Mecole Hardman, right? He's active, but he sees, 3 plays for 4 quarters. Yeah, 100%. 100%, which is really weird because even if Aaron Rodgers comes back at some point, like, you're talking the tail end of a season where, especially as a smaller guy, you're probably going to be more beat up and stuff. So it's not like Aaron Rodgers is getting your best version or anything like that. So I don't know. Who do you think we will trade Lawson for? I keep seeing people wanting to trade Carl Lawson for Hunter Renfrow, which would be like our Randall Cobb upgrade. Again, bringing in a wide receiver, I would question how much we're going to actually be able to utilize them and make them effective within this offense. At least till we see a few more games out of Zach Wilson to really get a strong idea of what we're looking at with him. But I wouldn't be mad at it. You're only talking 2 years ago where he had over 1,000 yards, and people were talking about him in the same breath as like what's the name that I'm thinking of? A Cooper Kupp, right? So definitely not in the same tier. But he was up there, and I don't think he's lost it. I just think when you see some of those Patriot guys go out and finally get their own team, you see them do some really some really dumb stuff just to say that they're putting their stamp on the team and all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't be mad at Hunter Renfrow technically, but ideally I would probably just try to flip Carl Lawson for a draft pick or two. Unless you get an offensive line option that's out there. Reports that there's 2 teams interested. Yeah, and I dropped the video yesterday. The Rams and who was it? The Rams and not the 49ers. The Rams and who the hell was it? Hold on. The Rams and the Vikings, I want to say. It was the Rams and the Seahawks. I've heard Vikings, and there was one other team that I heard of, but I can't recall who it was. Mac Jones balled out on Sunday. Do you think he's the truth? Nah, I think he's limited. Mac Jones could be a great quarterback in a scheme that he can master. Which, that first year I think did wonders for him. But then they switched everything up between going to Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, who's had nothing really to do with developing a quarterback. So that threw everything completely off. Now you're getting Bill O'Brien, who is one of the better offensive coordinators in the league. And having head coach experience helps. But you're talking about one of the worst offensively talented rosters that they've had. And Mac Jones is still no expert when it comes to being a quarterback. So I don't know. I think worst case scenario, he should technically be like an average quarterback. I don't think he'd ever be terrible. But yeah, I would say he's somewhere between average and slightly above average. I'm going to get out of here in like 10 minutes just so I can try to get this video and the editing and stuff knocked out. Do you think we contain Barkley? Barkley concerns me. I don't think he'll break out and have a ridiculous game, but I do think he'll have a ton of scrimmage yards, right? I could see him hitting 150 between torching us in the receiving game potentially, and then having a modest day on the ground. So I don't think it'll be crazy, but I think Saquon Barkley will do enough for us to, stay on the edge of our seats during the game. I would probably say Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hyatt concern me enough, only because of Jalen Hyatt's speed. Any of those speed demon type guys that will end up coming across, they're going to make me a little bit worried, just because I know we can tend to have some coverage lapses back there, and we don't necessarily have like an earth scorcher on the back end that can really save us like that. Yeah, it's rough. Plus, their offensive line, from what I recall, is getting a little bit healthier. I did hear that Andrew Thomas is unlikely, but he may be like a game time decision. But I mean, ultimately, our defense was playing like one of the best ones in the league, heading up to bye week for us. So I'm not 100% concerned. If we play flat, then, obviously our guys were bullshitting out there over the course of the bye week. But to be fair, when it comes to the screens, with the 4-3 defense and us generally relying on just sending our four guys, right? I think we have, was it the third lowest blitz rate in the league, something like that. You're asking your linebackers to cover more, but the assignments that they're covering are going to dictate a lot of what's happening. So part of it is the timing of when defenses are calling these screen games. The other piece of it is, though, some of the alignments, right? You're drawing Quincy Williams into covering a tight end on the opposite side where the screen is going. So you don't have your quickest linebacker out there helping you out. And then when it comes to CJ, it's going to be hit or miss, right? He might diagnose them early, but he might get picked up. He might be slightly out of position. And then you're relying on Sauce Gardner, who's not a strong tackler. You're relying on Jordan Whitehead, who whiffs trying to get big hits. And you'd have to hope that Tony Adams or one of the defensive line guys can go out there and, jump in on the play early. So it's set up to be pretty effective against our defense. But as long as we negate it and it's not like they're picking up 10 plus yards every time, I think we'll be fine. That's something I can live with. Who do you think has regressed this season? So I got really hyped for Jordan Whitehead in week 1 when he got those 3 interceptions. And now all of that looks a little bit like fool's gold because I see him reverting back to the same dumb stuff that made all of us upset last year. Again, going for the big hits. He's not wrapping up. You don't have to do proper form tackling every tackle. I'm not saying that. But when you go for the big hits so often that you end up being an obvious liability, you take a look at the Eagles game, that DeAndre Swift touchdown run, that could have been stopped short. Jordan Whitehead trying to go for the big tackle ended up getting in Quincy Williams' way. And then DeAndre Swift was just able to outpower whoever else was out there. I can't remember the third guy involved, but yeah, Jordan Whitehead would be my number one person that I'm not as high on anymore. And then I would probably say, I want to say Carl Lawson, but I know a lot of it is due to injury. So I would probably say Sauce Gardner is the other guy that is technically regressing, right? He still looks like one of those elite cornerbacks. But what I saw from last year and what I saw from this year is still a problem for me, which is he's not aggressive enough when it comes to making the tackles. And that's a problem for me, right? You see him, he either looks hesitant or even when he's going out there for the tackle, it kind of seems half-efforted and stuff. Like a guy like me, I would take a guy like Devon Witherspoon all day that the Seattle Seahawks picked up. Because that physicality from the cornerback position hits different for a lot of guys when you get past the defensive line and the linebackers or safety, and you know there's a cornerback in front of you and you're not expecting them to really do too much. You get surprised when they go out there and they try to, bang with you. So Sauce Gardner, he's never going to be that physical cornerback like that when it comes to making tackles. That's why I think you do need to let him go out there and play man coverage on an island a little bit more. And kind of maximize what he really can go out there and excel in. But it is what it is. I'm going to default to Jordan Whitehead. Keep the only thing. Hey, appreciate you, my man. Yeah, the 10 a.m. games suck because my kids will already be up super early. And then they don't generally take nap times until like 12 to 1 in the afternoon. So I'm trying to watch my game and I'm trying to like pay attention to my kids at the same time. It's rough. It's rough. And they're very hyper. Seattle. Okay. Yeah, my brother was staying out there for a while, and we used to watch Patriots because he's a Pats fan. Don't know where he was, don't know where he came from. He's the only Patriots fan in the family, but yeah, we used to try to watch games together, Jets and Patriots stuff and all of that, and it was always tough. Plus, Seattle, I think you guys always have like rainy weather and stuff out there, so there's a host of other issues that you're dealing with too. Rough. Yeah, I don't miss it. Don't miss it. I'm curious what some of you guys think as well, though. How close do you guys think this Giants game is going to be for us? Is it a nail biter, or is it something you see as kind of comfortably coasting through the game? I wouldn't be surprised, even with all the red zone struggles and stuff, if this just ends up being a game where you see Greg the Leg just have like 5 or 6 field goals. Which, now that I think about it, I remember somebody saying that he's essentially the MVP of our season so far. They're not wrong, right? If it's not for Greg the Leg pulling through on as many catches as kicks as he has, you're talking about the New York Jets being a very different team because you're having red zone struggles, and then you have a kicker that can you're not confident in past 50 or so yards. Rough. I think Tyrod. Yeah, I think Tyrod's going to have a nice game, but the Jets defense will prevail. Yeah, and I think that's fair. I want to say we faced Tyrod like maybe 3 or 4 times the last couple years, and we've always had generally strong defenses, but he always seems to do generally well against us, which concerns me, right? He's very much so kind of like it's almost like bend but don't break on the offensive side for him, right? Like he does just enough to be able to move his team up the field and stuff. You don't generally have to worry about him pouring 3 or 4 touchdowns on you every game, but he can rack up 1 or 2, and then he could play the most efficient game possible after that point, pretty much relying on his defense to help, run things out for him. So I get concerned about that, right? If you don't get Tyrod Taylor in a situation where he has to press to try to generate some points for the team, then I think you're playing right into what makes him a pretty solid quarterback. Special teams have been the truth and maybe the best in a few years. Yeah, the moment that we signed Greg and then we ended up getting I get our punter's name backwards every single time and I have to look it up. The moment that we had Morstead and Greg the Leg on the same unit, I wasn't really concerned about the returners or anything more at that point. I knew it was going to be a wrap. I've seen Brant Boyer turn what we thought could have been duds into some great units before. And now that he finally has his kickers settled in and he doesn't really have to worry about them, I always figured that we'd be, within the top 5 or 10 in the NFL. Realistically, I had expectations for top 3. So we'll see where we end up finishing at. But, yeah. Well, if Gibson goes down, who's the returner? So Mecole Hardman is no longer in the building. Not bad. Mecole Hardman no longer in the building. Let me see. Who else do we have? So Randall Cobb can at least do punt returns. I would imagine they probably try to move a guy like Izzy up. I know Robert Saleh touched on it anyways, with him, them working on seeing Izzy in special teams. You probably just try to get your most athletic or elusive guy back there. So it would probably be Izzy, or it'd have to be Randall Cobb. I can't think of anybody on the practice squad that they would move up. for a role like that. Yeah, and I don't think any of our DBs have really returned punts or kicks before. Zach shows flashes again. Yeah, this is definitely a good game for him to be able to do it. The key here will be, because we know we're facing a team that likes to blitz a lot, if Zach Wilson can identify the pressure early and take advantage, he's going to have a great game. It doesn't matter if it's from a yardage standpoint or he's able to go out there and stack together some big throws or multiple touchdowns. He should be in a good position for sure. We don't need to sign wide receivers. Let's activate Brownlee. Yeah, I'm definitely in the conversation for getting Jason Brownlee activated and seeing things. I've heard some people talk about him replacing Randall Cobb and getting his reps. The only question would be who would they want to move to the slot, right? Because I don't think we've really seen, even during the offseason, Jason Brownlee play within the slot a ton, if at all. So then the question just becomes, who do you want to be your slot receiver? I want to say I recall during the breakdown that Alan Lazard has played it to a certain degree before. But that would probably be your biggest question mark. Irv Charles is good as a blocker, and he's good at being able to go down there and help with making the tackles and stuff, but he wouldn't be able to return any kicks or punts. Well, I appreciate chopping it up with you guys. Appreciate all the questions, everybody coming through, kicking it with me for the night. I think I'm going to try to keep these to about 45 minutes or so. I'm also still playing with the idea of moving this to a different day, like maybe a weekend or something where I'll have more time. I don't know 100%, at least when I don't have to wake up early for work, basically. But I appreciate you guys coming through. Same time next week, right? 10 p.m. Wednesday. We're going to kick it again. Hopefully we'll be chatting about a Jets win there. But I'm going to get going on this video so I can drop for you guys tomorrow. And I'm going to catch you again, my man. The weekend. Okay, bet. I see you, Luis. I see you. I'm going to see what's up about hopefully trying to move it there for sure. Y'all have a good night.